What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my updated college football playoff predictions as we head into week number 5 of the 2024 college football season. So going into my playoff predictions here for this week, my updated playoff predictions, I have made 3 changes. And when I say 3 changes, I have added new teams in here, 3 new teams into my playoff predictions for this week based off of what's happened so far in the first half of the college football season. There are some teams out there that we're still kind of trying to figure out how good they possibly are, and then there are some teams out there that we know how good they're going to be and how they could be a playoff contender. So let's go ahead and get into my updated playoff predictions here for week number 5. Again, I made 3 changes here according to my playoff predictions here heading into this weekend. So again, here is the bracket. I've already put the top 4 conference champions based off of what's happened so far. I got Georgia at the number 1 spot. Georgia, I think, still goes undefeated and gets into the SEC championship and beats Texas and gets that number 1 spot. Now, Georgia a couple weeks ago did not look like a number 1 team. I mean, they dropped in the AP poll, but I'm not going to overreact too much because Georgia obviously has played games like that. So Georgia here still remains at number 1 for me. We'll see what they look like against Alabama coming up this weekend. If they win that game, Georgia definitely stays here at number 1, but if they don't, I mean, Alabama could probably jump in here at number 1. Maybe Texas jumps in here, so we'll see what happens after that game coming up on Saturday. But I got the Bulldogs here at number 1, my SEC champion. Then I got Ohio State here at number 2. We're still kind of trying to figure out how good Ohio State is. I mean, they haven't played anybody tough. They come out of a bye week, of course, this past weekend to play like a really solid Marshall team. But Ohio State is still a team that we're trying to figure out. They've only played 3 games. I mean, we'll find out a little bit about them this weekend when they play Michigan State. And that game's probably not going to be easy for the Buckeyes. You know, Michigan State's been a pretty solid team so far. They're not like a great team. They're just a solid team, but the Buckeyes will probably be favored big in that game. But either way, the Buckeyes here at number 2. I still got this team going to the Big Ten Championship and getting to the Big Ten Championship and winning it against, like, in a revenge game against Oregon. I still have Ohio State and Oregon making it to the Big Ten Championship, and I do have the Buckeyes losing to Oregon in the regular season matchup, but I got the Buckeyes winning that Big Ten title, so I got them here as number 2, the number 2 highest-ranked conference champion. And then Miami at number 3. This team, I think we kind of figured it out them a little bit. You know, they've been really good in the first 4 weeks of the season. They don't really have like a great, win on their resume, but, they're a top 4 team, in my opinion, in the playoff picture. And then also, they definitely probably are the favorites to win the conference championship right now in the ACC. This has been a very talented team so far. They got that win over Florida, which that Florida game, obviously it's not a great win for them. It's just a solid win because Florida did end up beating Mississippi State. So if Florida can continue to kind of get better and, that Florida game might end up, being like a good win. Not like a great win, just a really good win for them. But as of right now, it's a solid win for this Miami team. So again, I got the Hurricanes here at number 3. Cam Ward might be the best quarterback in the country based off of how he's played so far. Miami hasn't really had any tough competition since that Florida game, even though they beat Florida pretty badly. But, we'll see what they look like against Virginia Tech in their first conference game, and they'll play actually on Friday. So I got the Hurricanes here at number 3. And then I got Utah here at number 4, the new number 4 seed for me. I had Oklahoma State here ever since the preseason, but after beating Oklahoma State over the weekend, I got them here at number 4. And like I said last week, the winner of this game probably moves on to that number 4 spot, and that's what Utah did. They beat Oklahoma State by 3, 22-19. I think Utah probably is the clear favorite to win the Big 12, but not really that far behind them, is pretty much, BYU. BYU is undefeated right now. I don't really know about the other teams, Texas Tech and Arizona State. Those 2 teams played against each other. Texas Tech, I know, won that game. And I haven't seen a lot of Arizona State this year, but I haven't seen a lot of Texas Tech either. I think Texas Tech might be a pretty solid team, but, Utah definitely is the clear favorite right now to win the Big 12. You look at Oklahoma State and Kansas State, I don't think they're out of it just yet, but, Kansas State and Oklahoma State both lost over the weekend, and they do play each other this weekend. Maybe that's a game that probably decides who can probably challenge Utah to probably go to the Big 12 championship. But I got Utah as of right now winning the Big 12 championship just based off of that victory over Oklahoma State. So I got the Utes here at number 4 as my top 4 Power 4 conference champion. And they're here as the new number 4 seed. So these are my top 4 conference champions at the Power 4 level. All right, let's now get to the at-large teams. Again, the first round games are pretty much, on campuses. Again, the top 4 teams in this playoff get a bye week in the first round. And then the second round, semifinals, and national championship games are held on neutral fields. So let's now get to the number 5 seed here. That's going to be still the Texas Longhorns. Texas has been at number 5 for me ever since the preseason. Quinn Ewers went out with the injury. That's obviously a little bit of a concern there if you're a Texas fan. Arch Manning steps up in there. I mean, Arch Manning didn't look that great, to be honest. I mean, it was just his first start. I think he's going to get better as the season goes along. But Texas will have Quinn Ewers back probably this weekend against Mississippi State. I mean, I still favor, Georgia against Texas in the regular season game. But, like I said, I probably could change my pick just based off of what's going to happen here the next few weeks. But I think this Texas team clearly right now is the best team in the country. They beat Michigan, of course, in week number 2. That's been their biggest win so far. So I got Texas here as the top at-large team here at number 5. Moving on to number 6, I still got the Oregon Ducks. Same thing like Texas. They've been my number 6 seed ever since the preseason. Oregon had a bye week, of course, this past weekend, and they've only played 3 games, so we don't really know how good this team is. They had flat performances in the first 2 games against Idaho and Boise State. We'll see how good they are going into this weekend. I'm not sure who they play. I have to look at the schedules coming up throughout this weekend, but I got the Ducks here at number 6 as the second at-large team here at number 6. Moving on to number 7, that's the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss, still waiting for them to kind of play like a really good team. The Rebels have been pretty good, dominant on the offensive side of the football. The defense has been pretty good as well. But we'll see what they look like against Kentucky this weekend. I think that definitely will be their really tough competition. Georgia obviously struggled against Kentucky a couple weeks ago. Can Ole Miss probably do the same thing? I really don't know. I think Ole Miss's offense is really tough to stop, but again, we're going to find out how good this Ole Miss team is on the defensive side of the football. So I got the Rebels here at number 7, probably getting in there as a 10-2 type team, maybe losing 2 games in the regular season, and they get in there as a number 7 seed. Moving on to number 8, that's Tennessee. Tennessee comes in at number 8. So I had Ole Miss and Tennessee both at number 7 and number 8 last week. Tennessee coming off that big win over Oklahoma this past weekend. Tennessee has a really good defense. I think that's pretty clear based off of the first 4 weeks of the season. Tennessee, we know they have a really good offense as well. It wasn't really explosive against Oklahoma, but either way, they still came out on top of the victory. So I think with that victory over Oklahoma and also just based off of how they played in the first 4 weeks, this is definitely a playoff contender in my opinion. So I got Tennessee here at number 8. Number 9 is Alabama. So I had Alabama here at number 9 as a new playoff team in here. I mean, Alabama obviously has looked really good, in the first 3 weeks. And when I say 3 weeks, they have not played 4 games yet. They'll play Georgia coming up this weekend. They had a bye week, of course, this past weekend. And I think we're going to find out how good Alabama is when they play Georgia. The offense, of course, has been really impressive. The defense, though, this will be definitely their first real test. They played really well against Wisconsin a couple weeks ago. That really is like a good win for Alabama, but it's not really like a great win. Maybe it's a solid win because Wisconsin may not be as good as we kind of expected them to be. But either way, Alabama's here at number 9. Again, we'll see what they look like against Georgia coming up this weekend. And you never know, Alabama could probably jump up here to number 1. And this is a team that probably can make the SEC championship. You never know, that SEC race probably could be wide open if Georgia ends up getting beat this weekend. And Texas probably could be number 1 as well. So watch out for that game this weekend. Again, Alabama versus Georgia. That game is going to be really, really fun to watch. And then we go to my number 10 seed. So I made a change here to my number 10 seed. Last week, I believe I had maybe it was Alabama or maybe it was Penn State, to be honest. I can't really remember, but I've made a change here to my number 10 seed, and that's going to be the Michigan Wolverines. So Michigan with their win over USC, I think that's a great win for them, and also the game against Texas is not a bad loss for them. Even though that game was not really that close, I think Michigan definitely deserves a spot here in the playoff. I had Michigan in my preseason predictions at number 11. I think, they get in there probably as a 9-3 team, with the losses to Texas and then also Oregon and Ohio State. I mean, those are close games, and also those are close games, or actually close losses, or maybe not bad losses for them if they got blown out in both of those games against the Buckeyes and the Ducks. I think Michigan will have a great resume, and I think that's going to be enough for them to get into here as a playoff team. But again, based on their victory against USC, that was a very impressive win, and Michigan definitely deserves to be here in these playoff predictions for this week. So I got the Wolverines here at number 10. And then I also made a change here at number 11. I had a really tough time with the number 11 seed. And like I said, I had Penn State in here for a couple weeks in a row. But, based on their resume so far, they don't really have a good enough resume to get into the playoff. So with that being said, I think this team definitely, just based off of how they've been performing, that's going to be the Clemson Tigers. So I got Clemson here as my new number 11 seed. Clemson obviously has gotten a lot better ever since the Georgia game. We obviously don't know how good they're going to be just yet. We have to kind of, wait and see what they look like this weekend. Yes, they beat NC State over the weekend, but that's not really kind of telling me how good Clemson is. Now, Clemson is not really that far behind of Miami in the ACC championship race. I mean, Miami has not played a conference game yet. They will play one this coming up on Friday, but Clemson's already played one conference game. That really tells me that they're definitely going to probably make the conference championship. As of right now, I probably would favor Miami in the conference championship game. That's the reason why you're seeing the Hurricanes here at number 3. But you never know. If Miami probably loses this week, let's say they lose to Virginia Tech, Clemson definitely might be the favorite to get to the ACC championship and win it, and they can probably be that number 3 or number 4 spot depending on what happens in the ACC or the Big 12 championship games. But again, Clemson here at number 11, I've been really impressed with this team, and I've been saying they kind of remind me of the Oregon team a couple years ago. Remember, Oregon lost to Georgia a couple years ago and got blown out. Clemson has gotten better ever since that Georgia game. This definitely has been a different Clemson team as I've been looking at it, but we'll see what they look like this weekend and how good they are going to be. And then my group of 5 champion at number 12 is going to be UNLV. So UNLV I still have here at number 12. They have a couple wins over Power 4 teams in Houston and Kansas. They've beaten those 2 teams, but those are not really great teams, to be honest. But you got to give them credit. They beat Power 4 teams, and that's the reason why you're seeing them here at number 12. I think they might be the best group of 5 team right now in the country. So these are all my playoff teams. Let's now make predictions here. If these games were to happen this weekend, we'll start with the first round games. I'm still going to go with Tennessee here to beat Alabama. I got them moving on to the second round. I think that game would definitely be a shootout. And then Texas, they definitely beat UNLV here pretty easily. And then Ole Miss, that's a pretty tough one against Michigan. I think, defensively Michigan would have the better defense to keep Ole Miss, low scoring in this one. But, I think home field advantage might be the difference here. It is really tough to predict these playoff games when you got a first-round campus game and not on a neutral site venue. On a neutral site, I would definitely go with Michigan, but I'm going to go with Ole Miss here in the first round. And then I got Oregon moving on against Clemson. That would definitely be a really good matchup there. You got 2 great defenses going at it, and then you got the offenses that will be probably explosive by the time these games are played. But again, Oregon beats Clemson in the first round. Then we go to the second round games. I got Georgia beating Tennessee there in the second round. I think Tennessee definitely would be competing in this one, but I think Georgia definitely clearly is a more talented team. And then Texas and Utah. How about this matchup here? Texas versus Utah. This would definitely be a great one. I'm going to go with Texas, though, for right now because I feel like Texas definitely, based off of the performances so far, Texas has been the best team in the country. And then I got Ohio State beating Ole Miss there. That's another tight game. I'm going to go with the Buckeyes there. And then I got Miami beating Oregon. So, yeah, the same kind of, semifinal that we've had, of course, in the last, few weeks. Again, Georgia versus Texas and then Ohio State versus Miami. I'm still going to go with my national championship pick and also my national championship matchup, Georgia beating Texas and then Ohio State beating Miami. I'm still going to go with Georgia and Ohio State here in the national title game. And then I still got the Bulldogs winning it. So, yeah, Georgia's still been my pick ever since the preseason. But, if Georgia loses to Alabama this weekend, I can definitely change my pick. Either it could be Alabama or Texas. You never know. But we'll see what happens in week number 5. Things can really change here as we go into week number 5. We are very close to getting into the second half of the season. But But these are my playoff predictions heading into Week 5 of that 2024 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about my playoff predictions, and also give me your playoff predictions down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.